Hi everyone, it's Catharine MacIntosh here with Listed, and today is a super special day. This is the first time we've ever had a realtor on the podcast and a live consumer who was just looking for real estate. So I want to introduce you first to Adrian Bilic, who is so kind to agree to join us today here. And his real estate agent is Christina Kroner. She's with REMAX Hallmark. We originally met years ago at a tech conference. You're in the community doing community events, you're at tech conferences, you're working with all kinds of clients. You're absolutely amazing. So it is no surprise that we're here today because Adrian had a great experience with you. So thank you both for coming.
Thanks for having us.
Thank you for having me.
So Christina, I first want to ask you, because we want to establish while we have Adrian here, the reason we wanted Adrian to come here is because Adrian discovered Listed, started using it when you were looking for a rental.
Yep.
And what's not clear about real estate is how it works. Do you need an agent? Do you not need an agent? Especially when you're leasing a property and not buying or selling one. Not everyone knows what the process is like. And the other thing is, when you just Google real estate and you find a listing, is it the listing agent you're connected to? Is it someone else? Do you need a realtor? Do you not need a realtor? So, Christina, first I'd like to ask you, in real estate, how does it work? How does a regular person find a realtor? Can a person just not need a realtor and just go buy something on their own?
Yes, absolutely. Actually, ever since December 1st with TRESA, the Trust in Real Estate Services Act, they've made it easier for tenants and buyers to be self-represented parties and to elect to not work with their own representative. They can absolutely do that at any time during the transaction. However, it is definitely advised that they work with a realtor. The primary reason is that for the consumers, it will save them time. It will also save them money, and will have expert advice guiding them through the transaction, making it a much simpler, happier process for everybody. But if they don't have their own realtor, many consumers end up finding a realtor through word of mouth. They might ask a colleague, a friend, a family member who recently transacted in real estate, hey, do you know a great realtor? Can they help me out? Some realtors don't work with leases in Toronto, so you might be connected with someone who primarily focuses on pre-construction or buying and selling only. So it's great to actually be connected with a real estate agent that can serve your specific needs.
Exactly. Now, Adrian, when you started on this process to get a lease, did you have any idea you were going to need a realtor?
Sort of and sort of not. I feel like we were very much unknowledgeable about the whole process and how it works. And so our approach was essentially, we saw a place online that we wanted to see, we'd reach out to whoever was associated with it. And looking back at that, it's almost backwards, that whole thought process, just because, as soon as we started working with Christina, she was the one that we would reach out to, and then, she would reach out to the landlords, and then she would book the viewings for us. So it was almost a much easier process as opposed to us going online, finding a place, and then we'd have to kind of introduce ourselves to, whether it was a real estate agent associated with it or even a booking agent, right?
Yeah.
So it almost took us twice the amount of time it did when we weren't working with Christina.
That's amazing. Okay, so when you started the process, you looked online, right? That
Yep.
makes sense. Did you just Google it, or did you have Listed already? Or?
Yeah, so I think, so my soon-to-be roommate Andrew was kind of the one who started the process off, and he was using Facebook Marketplace.
Oh yeah.
And so that
There's an
that
exercise in frustration.
Yeah, so that whole process was interesting, to say the least. And so you have to reach out to whoever it was that put the posting, and then half the time, there'd be 3 of the same postings. So it's like, is this even a real one? Is it not a real one? But yeah, so we started originally with Facebook Marketplace, and then we went to Listed, and then we started using Listed, and then...
How did you get Listed?
So I got Listed, actually one of my best friends was a developer for Listed.
That's right.
Martin. So So yeah, he worked there for quite a few years, and then he was obviously the one that introduced us to the app and all the features and things like that. And so then, when it was time for me to actually use the app because I wanted to rent a place, that was obviously the first app that came to mind.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, now I love where you're going with this, so I want to come back to it. I'm going to pause for a brief second. So Martin, who is one of the best developers at Listed we've ever had. I love him. And he just recently went on a sabbatical to go off to Japan, of all places, which is fabulous. But Christina, how does it work when one of your clients shares your app with one of their friends? What happens to the friend?
So my understanding, Catherine, you may correct me if I'm wrong, but my understanding is that if I share the app to one of my clients and my client shares the app, then my unique identifying code will also pair that new person with me as well.
Yeah.
Or otherwise, if they download it from the App Store, it's a roulette, or they might be paired with you. Or so I think it's important that they actually share it from my unique link.
Okay, perfect. What I'm getting at is in real estate, when Andrew first Googled it, you could have got anybody.
Yep.
The reason, so you actually ended up getting me. Nobody can get me. I'm not gettable if you download it from the App Store because I don't trade in real estate, but I had to actually become a realtor to be CEO of Listed and make this app to know what was wrong with the industry and fix it. But the idea is that instead of a realtor, would you want a realtor who pays to show up?
No.
No. Would you want a realtor who secured the postal code of this region and you have to get them?
No.
No. Would you prefer a realtor that your friend or family or someone you know already knows and works with if you don't already have one?
Yes.
Yeah. So what we learned is that great realtors like Christina work by what we call repeat and referral business. So we figured, why not take the excellent realtors who, when they use the app and their clients use the app and share it, just gives you Christina. So in your case, when Martin shared Listed, you got me. And so anybody who does get me, so I had to become a registrant. So you cannot have a discussion with anyone from the public about real estate if you don't have your license. So for example, there are a lot of people who have their license and don't trade, and it's simply because they are the admin or the assistant to a team of realtors. But to field calls from the public, they need to be registered. So what I love is that when you got me, I could never go and show you units, but I can at least ask you enough questions to know, oh, who should this person be connected to? Now, in this case, it's really funny because you had Listed and started using it. Your other roommate, Andrew, started using it.
Yes. Yeah.
And your other, Abdullah, also started using it. And perhaps you didn't share it with them, but just told them about it. So either that, or when they just downloaded it, they got someone else, or if I didn't realize you were related, so when they reached me, if they got me because you shared it with them.
I think it was
that.
the last. Yeah.
It was the last. So everybody got me because it works like it should, but I can't help anyone. So I basically referred each of you to a great realtor out of fairness. And it was a very confusing experience until we realized that you were all together looking for the same place. So I guess, can you tell us your experience of each of you having a different realtor, each of you being unlisted, and you guys not knowing if you were getting the listing agent, like the person who represents the landlord, or somebody else? Like how did that even make sense in your mind?
It didn't really make sense if I'm going to be completely honest.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think we saw one place. Well, I went to see one place originally with Christina.
Yeah.
And then Andrew, there was another place that Andrew had a different real estate agent through Listed that we went to see. And then finally we had a third place booked. It was Abdullah that ended up getting you.
Yeah. Oh, and you know why that was?
Yes.
It was a like Sunday or Saturday.
Yeah.
There was like a snowstorm
Yeah.
and no realtor with 2 minutes
Yeah.
notice was going to do it. But I can legally do it. And because
Yeah.
I'm always, as you know, go to any length to do something, I was like, I'll show them and then it'll be a favor to whatever realtor does work with them. So I booked it. But then somehow you guys were standing outside the house and I realized you have all these different realtors and everything's happening. And I was like, no, we're going to explain how it works and then you can pick somebody. I think I even said to you guys, if you don't want representation, I can tell you who the listing agent is, or you can just go on realtor.ca, which connects you to the listing agent themselves, who, by the way, is the last person you should connect with because they represent the landlord. But if you want to. So when I said, hey, call the landlord, or I can connect you to one of these people if they're willing to work with you. So what happened at that point? You're standing in the snow outside the house.
Yeah. I'm going to be completely honest.
Angry
I was
and
a little,
disappointed.
I was a little aggravated.
Yeah.
I think it was a Saturday morning at like 10:15. So I was heading over to the place with my girlfriend, and then I think we got a text from you saying that it wasn't going to happen anymore. And then I reached out to you, and we actually spoke for close to an hour, I think it was. Thankfully we did, because, that was kind of my information session. And you kind of broke everything down. You explained how it all worked. And then I think at the end of that, you kind of offered Christina, or you said to kind of go back and discuss with Andrew and Abdullah
because you'd met another realtor. And
Christina.
So
what are, after explaining the different options, what we wanted to do. And then, I took it back to the two of them. We spoke about it. And then again, I had a great experience with Christina with the first showing that we went to.
Oh, good. That's not surprising.
And so, I said, hey guys, like, it was fantastic seeing the place with Christina. She was super informative about everything. And I could tell she was willing to go, the extra step or two to kind of make my experience that much better. And that's obviously something that, you'd want from your real estate agent, right? And so I let them know about that. And then we chatted a bit, and they were both on board to bring Christina in as our real estate agent. And then it was, smooth sailing from that point on.
So can you frame for us how long you'd been kind of looking at places until the day in the snow? It was so frustrating.
Yeah. So I think we started late January, early February. And then I think it might have been 2-3 months later that we had that snowy day viewing booked. Yeah. But it was just a difficult process for those 3 months. There was a lot of things that kind of played into that, whether it was just, no listings being available, or, we see a place that we like, we try to book it, and then the next day we get a message, hey, it's leased. So it was definitely a tough process. But again, it worked out in the end, and we're all three of us are super excited and very happy that, we got a place that not only we like, but the process overall was very seamless. And that's all you can really ask for, right?
Okay, so let's break this down. It was super frustrating.
Yep.
You and I have this call where I let you know how organized real estate works and give you your options from self-represented to fully represented. It was probably a week or so, but by the time you decided that you were going to work with Christina, didn't you get a place just like that?
Yeah, I think it might have been 2 weeks, which is funny compared to 3-4 months of us looking on our own without that knowledge. And then we bring Christina on board in 2 weeks, like the snap of a finger, like you just did, and we have a place secured. So very grateful that we did have that call. As frustrating as that morning might have been for me, it ended up working out in the end, and it's kind of history at this point.
Beautiful. Well, it's a testament to the fact it was a good experience that when I asked you to come here today, you just said absolutely.
For sure.
Now I just want to segue for a second to Christina. So how often when someone books a place or wants to see it, is it just available like it says online?
That's a misconception.
Yeah.
Sometimes I think of myself as a travel agent booking a multi-stop European cruise.
Yeah.
When you have multiple properties, especially those that are tenanted, you have to confirm with the tenants if that showing is a possibility. Sometimes you give a 24-hour notice as required, and then on the 23 and a half hours after the notice was given, you're told that that day doesn't work and to please rebook for another time. And then you'll have frustrated clients on the other end.
Yep.
In many cases as well, properties will show as available on the MLS system, and I always have to contact and personally speak to the listing agent and confirm that it is available. There are some reasons for that. When a deposit is delivered, it has to be confirmed by all parties before, and especially the listing agent's office, before it will show as leased on the MLS system.
So actually, it looks available to everybody.
Even to myself,
and
even
to
on the
you.
back end. Yes.
But let's get this straight. It's actually been leased on a Thursday or Friday.
And it takes until Monday to
Or
confirm
Tuesday.
the deposit. Yes.
Yeah.
So that's something that can be frustrating for both myself and my clients. So the way that I make this process so seamless is that I take the extra step to personally contact those listing agents on behalf of my clients and confirm that all of the appointments I'm about to show my clients who are about to take time off on a Saturday and take time away from work, that they're able to actually see those properties at the time that we plan. And that's from years of experience, from having been at the door with a key that doesn't work or a tenant that says, sorry, no showing. Years of experience have helped me fine tune this process to make it as seamless as possible for my clients. Yeah.
That's amazing. And actually, half the time, even when you call to confirm it, a lot of agents will not answer the phone and they're not available at the last minute, especially for a lease to confirm it with you. So
I start 36 hours before the appointment if possible, and I start confirming. And it's also important to build rapport with the listing agent because in multiple offer situations, like we had in this case as well, building rapport with the agent helps to put another dimension to the offer that they receive in their inbox. So if you've already been speaking to them, you build rapport. Perhaps in this case as well, I had a prior relationship with the listing agent as well from working at the same company years before. So that helped that we had a face-to-face interaction previously. But regardless, it's important that we have as real estate agents, strong relationships with our colleagues because that translates into a better process, especially when there are multiple offers, like in this case.
Yes, yeah. Precisely.
Another key thing that sets my services apart is that I always tell my clients beforehand what will be required during the offer process to make sure that they have their documents ready. There is no point in doing showings without having an employment letter in your inbox, without having a credit report, a rental application filled out. And many times I have to put the brakes on my clients who want to immediately just run out and see properties. That is not the way to do things. It is the way that a consumer wants to do things because they're excited. They see a listing online. They say, I want to go see it. But it will actually be a waste of time and a disappointment for everybody involved if the paperwork is not in order. Real estate in Toronto gets snapped up really quickly. It's a matter of being on the ball. So the properties, they show up like in listed. We drew a map. We knew exactly the boundaries of the search and we were on the ball when listings came up that matched the criteria. But the second part of that was also having all of the documents in the inbox. So as soon as we walked through the property, I could communicate with the listing agent that we're preparing an offer and there was no delay.
Okay, amazing. So Adrian, did you know or realize that you were going to have to get more personal documents together to rent a place than buy a house?
No, I didn't. But again, thankful that Christina kind of set that out from the start. And so, we got all our stuff together, and then as soon as we did want to put in an offer, we just sent it all to Christina, and then she sent it off to the listing agent or the landlords.
That's right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Now, what's funny is when Christina just mentioned that building rapport matters, it's not only the relationship, but a realtor can see her name and know out of the 10 submissions or 3 offers or how many offers there are when it's competing, that just by fact of who she is, they would not be receiving an offer that doesn't have all the T's crossed and I's dotted and ready to go. So you're already half accepted when you have a great realtor. And I think that's the real point here, is just, it doesn't cost you anything. It makes the process smoother. But here's my question to you. How in the world, if Martin hadn't shared the app with you, and then all three people got me, and then I called you, and then we had an hour-long conversation that, by the way,
serendipitous stars aligning moment.
that you were willing to even have a conversation with me, because I was hang-upable worthy there. Because you're standing outside the house, you're frustrated, you and your girlfriend get up at the crack of dawn on a Saturday, and I'm like, we can't go see it, and this is why. And it was really challenging. So how can we use organized real estate to make this situation better for consumers?
That's a good question. I mean, to be completely honest, the fact that listed exists is already a step in the right direction. And I was actually telling Christina before the camera started rolling. The one thing that I love about listed is everything's consolidated into a single platform.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like I need to look in, website A for this piece of information, and then website B for this piece of information, website C, and the list keeps going. Whereas with listed, you hop on the app and it's all in one, right? I can see pictures, photos, I can see, prices, what the rent was before it was listed, and things like that. So it's for me, it's the ease of use, the convenience that you guys have with listed that makes it such a great platform. And then also, one other thing, and I was also telling Christina about this, is one of my favorite features, and I'll give a shout out to Martin for, I believe he was the one who implemented it, is just the map drawing.
Yeah.
Such a simple feature on paper, right? You just draw a map, but then it filters out everything in terms of places you don't want to see, right? And it just it's things like that, little things that make the app just so much easier for end consumers to use. And I think that's one great thing. And then on top of that, I think the knowledge aspect is the one thing that we were all definitely lacking in. And so even having podcasts like this, right?
Yeah.
If I'm a consumer and I'm starting out in the market for the first time, and I watch this podcast, they're going to hear my testimonial about how the whole process went, and then realize, okay, I'm not going to go into this and try and do it on my own without a real estate agent, because quite frankly, we'd still be looking if we never had Christina. So they'll initially take the first step of, let's get a real estate agent first, and then we can kind of go from there. Because in my opinion, if we were to have gotten a real estate agent right off the bat, the process probably would have taken 4 months shorter. So no, again, it was like Christina said, the stars aligned. And so and sometimes that's just how it works, right? So I'm very grateful for how everything worked out, and happy to be able to move into a new place come July 1st.
Okay, well, you intuited my next question. I was going to say, what compelled you to agree to take time out of your Sunday morning to join us on this podcast to answer this question?
I think a lot of things. I mean, first of all, the fact that one of my best friends worked on the app. And then second of all, the fact that, both of you went above and beyond what's expected to make my experience, much, much better. And so I'm almost kind of giving back to you guys, and then, also giving back to people who are starting out, right? And then, like I just said before, if they were to come and take a listen to this podcast, watch it, hear what I have to say about the experience, and realize that, you guys are both fantastic people. The platform's great. And it makes things that much easier to go out and secure a rental property in such a difficult market.
Yes. So that's what I really appreciate about you, is that I knew and felt from our conversation when I called you to see if you would come do this, that the main reason you were doing it was you knew that it would have a net better improvement to everybody's life who could understand the way that it works so they have a better experience.
For sure.
So that is so awesome. Are you just, when you talked about how great it was to draw in the map, you know, that really is, right? You can exactly define your boundary. How did you figure that out? And how does that work for you? Like, do you draw the map and then filter it and then save it, or how did you?
Yeah.
And how did you learn how to do it even?
Well, it was through Martin. So he kind of would give us an idea as to like what he was working on and whatnot.
But did you need his help to figure it out, or is it intuitive?
No, it's very intuitive. You just check the map, and then you essentially kind of, I think there was an option to kind of press on a pencil. I could be wrong. And so you press on that, and then it's, you know, intuitive enough to kind of draw your boundaries, which we had already defined. That was one of the first things that we kind of set out for ourselves was, what are the boundaries? And so being able to, you know, specifically set, you know, an exact street on all sides, north, south, and then east and west, was great for us. And then again, it just filters out all the stuff that we don't want to see.
So you put like did you put like, you had 3-bedroom and like all the stuff that you wanted?
So we had the location, we had the bedrooms, and then I believe the bathrooms as well. And then I think that's all the filtering.
I think one parking spot as well.
Parking, yes, parking as well.
You needed parking.
Yeah, she's on the ball. And so that's kind of all the filtering we did, and then we let the app do the work, show us everything that met the criteria in the filtering, and then you know, we check daily, see if they're running new listings, see if places were getting listed. And you
don't even have to check daily because the app gives you real-time notifications if something pops up.
Exactly.
You can just set and forget.
Yep.
Did you get notifications?
I did, yes, and that was another thing that we were actually speaking about before the podcast here. So yeah, and the notifications were great. At times it was a bit frustrating because you get a notification that, you know, a place you're following is unfortunately leased. But again, I'd rather have that than, you know, keep trying and then next thing I know I check somewhere and it's, you know, I realize it's leased, right? So.
Okay, well, I just want to ask Christina, do you have any questions for Adrian before we let him go onto his Sunday day here? Or vice versa.
Put me on the spot here.
You can think of it, because next I'm going to ask you if you have any for Christina. So whichever one of you wants to answer that first.
I can ask.
Okay,
I'm just curious how your experience was working with us. And then just kind of walk through that whole process, you know, from the first place that I saw with you to us kind of signing the new place.
Okay. That is a good question. All right. So I'll be candid that...
Yeah, because I'm even included in there because there was a disjuncture.
Typically when you get contact information from somebody who's looking to buy or to rent, you have to screen them. You have to figure out, is this person worth my Saturday morning? Are they qualified to rent a property? Are they motivated? Is this a realistic search? So I do find that I try to do what I can prior to a meeting, but that's not always possible. Primarily because I find that if I ask you 100 questions before we meet, you probably will stop at question like 22 and then say, next realtor.
Yeah.
So it's a fine balance of answering or asking the right questions prior to a meeting to fine tune whether it's worth the investment. But then also a tenant profile of 3 young men who are looking for a rental together.
With a dog?
Pardon me?
With a dog?
No dog.
Oh, you don't have a dog?
No.
Oh, I
no
made
dog.
that up. Okay.
Yeah.
I thought you had a dog.
Yeah. So 3 guys, and you don't know them in person yet. So there isn't that rapport established yet. So it is a little bit risky on the agent side to then say, okay, I'm going to take a few hours out of my morning and set up these appointments and meet for the showing prior to seeing any of the supporting documents as well.
Partly because landlords are skeptical of
landlords are very skeptical about 3 guys. You want to make
30.
Yes, exactly. It's a bit of a risky profile in the landlord's eyes.
Yeah.
So there was that, but then also once I had told you that property had an offer on it, you didn't seem motivated to move forward. So I'm like, oh, okay. I guess Adrian's not interested. Let's move on. So it was really great that we were able to reestablish that connection because I wasn't sure whether to reach out to you and say, was it something that I did that I dropped the ball, or is it just not the right timeline for you? But also I hadn't met your other 2 roommates. So having met only you potentially it was something that I was not aware of that was causing a delay in the process. So it's fantastic that we were able to get reconnected. And I think as soon as you created that group chat, the text message chat between your roommates and myself, then we were able to instantly fine tune what you were looking for. We both drew on the map, unlisted, what were the boundaries and the criteria, and the ball got rolling right away. So I think the process went very smooth once we were able to just communicate clearly and have that information. But sure, it's just hard as a real estate agent. We are busy all the time. And it's a matter of when you get a cold lead, you never know whether or not to jump off the couch today and run and do everything you can to show the property, because we've all been burned. But at the same time, you want to give the best possible service to the client. So again, having the introduction from you, Catharine, gave me the indication that that Adrian was a valid tenant. And then as soon as I met you in person, I knew.
Yeah. So the realtor being burned, showing up, all those things match your being outside the house on a rainy day or snowy day on a Saturday morning. Like, I think what bothers me as the media, like representing listed, is my whole goal, our goal as a company, was simply seeing real estate was not transparent, it was opaque, and our mission is to align the interests of organized real estate with what the consumer needs. But part of that is informing the consumer of their best options so they even know what to do. Because as soon as you knew what to do, you did it. And I'll just say, with your question to Christina, she texted me and said, "These guys are amazing. My experience with Adrian's been fabulous. Thank you so much," with a bunch of happy emojis. So she didn't go into it as much, but she thought the experience was great working with you guys.
I'm glad to hear that.
So thank you for that.
Of course. Yeah.
And I think that's also a challenge when you're reaching out to the listing agent directly, that the listing agent themselves is having that same conversation process in their head, because they're receiving multiple inquiries on their property. And they can either, they obviously have to work in the best interest of their client to show the property as much as possible, but they have to balance that with being able to screen these potential inquiries and set up appointments that match the schedule. And there's been many times that I've been ghosted, that I'm standing outside of my unit that's for rent and nobody shows up.
Yeah.
So there's been times where I drive across the city in a snowstorm, reschedule everything, and then I'm standing there and I'm like, where's this person who wanted to see this condo? So it happens as well on the listing agent side of things. So again, when you have your own tenant representation, then you're working with somebody who doesn't have to coordinate you don't have to coordinate independently with all of these properties. Because if you're wanting to see a handful of them, that's a lot of work on your side.
For sure.
And, to the credit of the person who's ghosted or done whatever, they're over here going, why do I need to get my birth? No, not your birth, but everything, all these documents together that are practically, it's so invasive, the documents that you need to get together. And depending on a person's profile, the harder it is, the less you make, or, things like this, it's can you show me your bank statement? Can you, it's really invasive, but an agent is only going to ask you these things to make your application better. But like Christina alluded to, you just ditch them at question 22 because you're thinking, oh, it'll be easier with someone else. And I'll tell you right now, if it is easier for someone else, or they don't go through the process that you take your clients through, or other great realtors take their clients through, you should be skeptical about them.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, one comment I do have on that, just from something that Christina did, is so after we did see the first place, she let us know. She said, hey, the profile, 3 young men, it's going to be rather difficult if you guys really want this place, to get it. But she says, what I'm willing to do is I'm willing to get you guys on a Zoom call with the landlords, because in my previous experience, that's the best way to kind of approach it when, you're a group that the landlords aren't necessarily looking for. Yep. Right. And I'm assuming they were looking for, a younger family, as opposed to 3 young men. And so, it's little things like that Christina was willing to do. And even the knowledge there, right? That, some real estate agents wouldn't even bother doing that.
Or know to do it.
Exactly, right? And so again, it's stuff like that, in my opinion, sets her apart from any ordinary real estate agent. And again, it's great that, it worked out in the end, and that we were able to get connected, and then you connected me through to Christina.
So let's just get this straight. You were on an extraordinary app with an extraordinary real estate agent to get you and your two extraordinary friends, which make you guys an amazing group of tenants for this very lucky landlord. This all worked out well, I'd say.
For sure.
Worked out great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, if you don't have anything else, then thank you so much
Thank
for
you guys for
joining
having
us
me.
today.
Of course.
If even one person looks at this and finds a place more easily, has less frustration, understands their choices better, will have succeeded, and all our time will have been well spent.
Yes. And I think that's, the main thing that I wanted to get out of this is getting that out there to people that are potentially going to be in the same situation that I was.
Right.
And giving them that same knowledge that, I had to take a few months to get to, so that they can have it right off the bat. But yeah, no, I'm very appreciative that you guys had me on, and very happy that everything worked out in the end.